So I applied auto contrast on the reference image here. Now, this was done from the other non-adjusted image, so I'm going to have to compare your version with my version, I'm going to have to adjust this one first. And that's good because it gives me the opportunity to show you how to do this. You go to auto contrast, and before you start, you have to make sure that there's no white anywhere inside. You can just paint over. If there's a white spot here, you just paint over the white spot, or you just select it out so that you don't include it in the processing. So yeah, this is much more closer to what it should be. Closer to this one, but it's still a little bit too dark. So I'm going to brighten it up with curves. And by the way, another thing that you can do, you can fade auto contrast. If you find it too much, you just go like this: 0, 100, 50. Those two actions are very useful. Curve adjustment, curve. I have to put it outside of the recording area, but okay, a little bit brighter. Like I want this to be closer to this so that you can more focus on my painted differences rather than this huge difference in tone. Yeah, something like that, let's say. Well, the darks are a bit too dark, but then again, they're okay here. This is okay. This is okay here, but these are too dark, so I guess I'll just paint them lighter. And so I will just use any brush. Like the one I use the most, hard pressure, simple, round edge, sharp edges. I guess I can just start by making this brighter because I'm not starting from scratch now. I maybe that's what you need to see, but I don't know. I think you can also learn something from me adjusting your image. If I started from scratch, I would probably do a single tone like that first, and then put in a darker tone on top in different places, and then put in a lighter. I think I went through that in the other one. Start in the middle and then do light and dark. Three tones basically, but I don't bother to keep it strict from the beginning. Like it's not an exercise, right? When you're doing the exercise, yes, you try to keep it strict, like 1, 2, 3 tones. But when you're painting this final image, you don't need to keep it strict like that. You can smudge the edges and you can have pressure sensitivity like this, stuff like that. Okay. So I lightened it. It's, you see this area right here. I don't need to do much changes to this now because there's already pretty close to what it should be. Maybe a little bit lighter, but it's so much closer than before, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. But the more important area is around the eyes and the face in general, but especially around the eyes. The hair it's looking a bit flat here. It's not that important. We can also work on that, I guess. It's too dark here. Okay, so I'll just paint. I'm color picking from here and just painting lightly on top. This part is okay. This side is okay. It's close, very close to what it should be. The forehead can be a little lighter. Should be a little brighter up top. These marks are too dark, so I'm painting over them loosely. Very loose pressure here. Very loose pressure. Just putting layer after layer. Now, if I did 100% pressure, it would look like that, but that's fine too. I mean, I can do some but I want to work up to it. I don't want to put 100% pressure right from the start. The nose is fairly close. You see the highlight on the nose now is quite, but maybe a little bit more. Spread this dark area here, but now the shadow is too dark, so I'm lightening the darkest part, but keeping the intermediate tones there. This is a little bit too dark, so I'm lightening it a little bit. This part is too bright, so I'm going to darken it a little, and so on and so on. You know, it's just I'm just looking and comparing, and I can see that this is too bright, and I'm not going to worry too much about these spots here because they are stains on the. I'll include them slightly, but you have to be careful to make them look like bumps in the surface, because they're not bumps. The surface is flat, but there's a stain on the surface. So be careful. Darker here and lighter here, but you know, not all the way, not flat like that. That's the benefit of working very gently and loosely and doing layer upon layer upon layer. This area could maybe be a little bit brighter, so I'll color pick from the other area I did before, which I know is brighter, and put a little like that. This should be darker right here. I color pick from here and just loosely put, very gently put that there. And if I ever put too much, I just color pick right next to it and bring it back over. This area is very close, very close. This is all very close. The chin, this shadow on the chin is, as you probably can see by now, it's too sharp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to darken this area and lighten this area, but not completely. I'm not going to completely remove that shape. Here, I don't think there is a shape. Here, I think, well, it's very, very subtle. So you got to just keep lightly brushing until it's almost gone there, something like that. The line in the mouth is too wide and too thick and too dark, so I'm going to gently color pick right next to it and then sort of go in, and it's almost like applying makeup. You got to be nice and soft with it. And here also a little bit harsh. There's an area that we want to have the shape remaining, but it can be a bit smaller. I'm going to make that shape smaller like that. And this is obviously way too dark, so I'm going to color pick from here and go over it. One stroke, second layer, third time going across it, several times. Four times I went across. I want to soften this edge here a little bit, so I'm going to bring it in from the left, and then maybe, yeah, there's a shape here that is missing, so I'm going to bring that shape in there. And I'm going to bring this out here because I think it's a little wider right there. And that's a bit too dark there. We've got to be careful with those shadows. They deepen the wrinkles. If you have that part very dark like that, it makes somebody look unattractive. Little highlight there. We need some brighter here. You can also work with a small brush if you like that. But I prefer to work with a larger brush like this. If you work with a smaller brush, you're going to have to press harder, and that can be, see, like that. I think that's, and a little bit softer here, softer edge here. Yeah, this whole area is a bit softer, but it's not. It's very close, so I'm not going to do too much in there. It's already quite close right there. This also should be maybe a little bit softer, but I'm lightening. By pressing very gently, by picking here and pressing very gently, I'm just lightening the darker part. There's a bit of a bulge right there, which maybe if I did too much, now I'm bringing the darker color back in because I think I did too much. I'm going to bring this darker color in here as well on that highlight right there to get a soft turning of the form right there. Here also we can bring that up a bit to lighten that, but we can also darken that. So that kind of softens the whole thing. When you blend, blending is easy like this. You bring this one over here and then, but at a mix, like 50% roughly, and then you bring that back over here. That's how you soften edges. Let me pick a hard edge here and just show you. So here's a hard edge with a high contrast. So I pick the white and then I pick the black, and then you keep again, pick and again, pick and again, you know, just keep picking on either side, and you can also pick the center tone. And if you really want to obliterate that shadow, just go like this, and maybe a thinner brush could also, you have to adjust the brush thickness to but you see, that's time consuming. And what I like to do is I just like to take my smudge brush and just go wiggle, wiggle, wiggle like that, and it's done, you know. So that shouldn't be soft, but that was just a demonstration. I'm going to color pick the darkest color I can see here in this image, and I'm going to make this darker because it needs to be darker all the way up to here. A little bit darker here. I am having the same color, but I'm just pressing very lightly right there. Now I'm pressing a bit stronger because this needs to be darker. I'm still using the same color I just picked. It's the same value I just picked. A smaller brush to get into the crevice here. And that is dark enough, but we need to darken this area a bit. I think I'm going to work my way up the scalp now. This can be a little, well, that's too much, so I have to press more lightly, and here also very light. And then here we can do a little bit of this because there are some spots up here. And speaking about spots, I have to get back down to the cheeks again because I'm not finished with those. Now to get some rounded feeling out of this, now I'm picking that color, the intermediate color that I just created. I'm picking it with a bigger brush and putting, again, gentle strokes, not 100%. This is too dark here, so it's actually a cool trick. When you pick the right value and you go gently over an area, you're actually, if you pick the right one, you will get exactly what you desired. Like me in this case, I wanted that to go lighter and I wanted the white to go darker. So, and that's what happened because I had picked an intermediate tone from here, which was flattening the values. So sometimes you want that. In this case though, I don't want that. I pick from here, darker, just to make this whole region darker. It's just constantly thinking about what you have, what tone you have on your brush and how hard you're going to press. This can be a bit brighter, so I'll pick from here and make it brighter like that. There's a bright area right here as well. And we can put some brighter spots up here. I think this is what makes it look like stone when you have these sort of mellow variations like this, not strong, not high contrast, but low contrast. And let me bring this down here because that needs to be, and this may be a little darker right there, because you need to have a curvature on the forehead. You need to have, there's some subtle color variation going on here that is hidden by this by these stains. The stains are hiding the nice soft color variation which makes it the brightest point is here, and then it goes gradually darker down there, but it also goes darker to each side of the forehead. This produces the illusion on a 2D surface of this three-dimensionality that we want. We want to see this volume. So flatness is the enemy and volume is what we want. So it needs to be a little darker here at the edges to evoke that, but very gentle. Because these effects are so subtle that it's so easy to just kill the whole thing by being heavy-handed. And a little softer here because we have, as you can see, it's a little darker right at the edge there. Actually, I'm going to bring this brighter color in, like I mentioned before, as well, to lighten the dark area. And maybe a little bit of smudge just to speed that part up, so it's not so harsh. And I'm going to use this smudge now to adjust the nostril a little bit, because this one, I want to push that one up a little bit to the right, and the columella in the middle wasn't symmetrical enough, so I pushed it a little bit to the right as well. Let's look at these LR wings here, a little bit lower here on that one. Now the cheeks, I have neglected the cheeks for too long. Pick the brighter color from the forehead, which is, this one right here, this one right here, and this one right here. Those three spots will be the brightest, except for the nose. The nose will be the brightest because it has a very specular, it seems to be more specular, which is realistic because on people also, the strongest highlight is usually on the nose. So I'm gonna just, so I don't want to be as bright as the nose, right? That's too much. So I'm just gonna gently make it similar to up here. I'm brightening that spot a little bit as well, and then right there a little bit, and then a tiny touch on this side. You see, this subtle stuff is impossible to do if you're starting with a reference that has been squished down in tone to like a third of the range that we have now. And this is too bumpy right here, so we need to smooth this out a lot. And soften this edge because it's a very softly turning surface right there. A little bit higher, but this shadow goes a bit higher. Also, this goes a bit higher, so I'll put the shadow right here. And then lightening this part a bit. Lightening this. There's a spot right there that needs to be much lighter, if you see. I'm lightening that. See, there's still a bit of an edge there. Push that down a bit as well. Now, because if the ALR wings are, if the nostril, covers, ALR wings are too high and too big, it makes a person look unattractive, It's not good. And this shadow needs to be extended, softening the lip. By softening the shadow, you soften the lip, basically. That's how that goes. There's an edge there, softening that. I have, you can see here which color I have picked right now, and it's this color basically. It's quite close. A little bit lighter here, maybe, like so. A little bit lighter right there. Here's a spot that is always has a highlight on people's faces, because this, well, if the lighting comes from the top. Of course, if it comes from the bottom, it's reversed. But this area has a very complex shape, so you get distinctive shadows and they're always very similar from person to person. It doesn't vary much. The shadows, there's always a highlight there, a shadow there. The placement can be a little bit different, but basically this whole area is too light now, so I want to, and this cheek is too dark right here. So lightening this part all the way down to here. going to pick that and darken this part. The chin can be a bit darker here. Going up to the cheeks on either side. This area would be probably quicker just to use my smudge brush. Just go wiggle there and wiggle there, and I can push this. This is too sharp. There's a shape there that doesn't exist. Push this up, 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 up. Softening that whole area. Yeah, it's roughly. I mean, I could. The longer I keep doing this, the more perfectly photographic it's gonna be, and you don't want to get too close. I mean, you don't want to make it look like a photograph or something. That's kind of, well, I guess when you're practicing, it's good to just keep going until you see. There's a bright patch there, but this is a stain, like tears almost coming down the cheek. But it could be interesting to try to capture that. So I'm going to try to put a shadow here that comes down like a tear right there. But you see how subtle you have to be. Super subtle. And this is a little bit too bright. More darkness here. More darkness here. And there's a little edge going up right here, which is interesting. I like to keep that. And yeah, this here is just, this is a bit messy. And when something is messy, you can easily clean it up by this with a smudge brush like this. I'm just sort of obliterating detail just in that little area right there, because it was, I don't know, to me it wasn't contributing much. It was, and it wasn't here. I couldn't find it in the reference. So sometimes you can do stuff that isn't in the reference because it's cool, but maybe usually not. There's a little stain here. I mean, there's a lot of stains everywhere that I haven't done, but there's a little stain just right there. And again, you have to be so careful. I think I got it. Now I'm squinting, pulling back my head a little bit, maybe a little bit darker right here. It's quite close, and I could keep going. I kind of want to push this area down, and to do that I can have a big smudge brush to push this area down a bit, because it was a bit asymmetrical, and this one as well down a bit. Yeah, there's a spot right there. I did this on the other eye, but I forgot to do it here. So I'm going to darken this eyelid just a little bit at the edge right there. Well, the lower one too. Because they are receding inwards into the face, away from the light, so they will go darker. And I'm sure I've missed something somewhere. This shadow can be a bit darker. Right here. But again, I'm trying not to put any sharp edges anywhere, because that's going to be a bit counterproductive. I can darken this all the way up here. Actually, I can darken this too. Still, that shadow seems too harsh, so I'm going to try to blend the upper edge. The upper edge mostly. I could blend the lower edge too, but for now, let's just do the lower edge as well then. Yeah, I mean, the lips are okay. pushing the nose ridge to the left a bit. That's a spot which is too bright right there, I can see. So I want to brighten it like that. This is too bright. Yeah, and actually this can be lit up a bit. The highlight is too wide, but it doesn't matter. That's a tiny thing compared to other things. Yeah, so I think I'm going to stop now, but this is basically it. Just lightening this area a little bit. Top of the head isn't perfect yet. We could, because you see it's a bit flat. So what is needed when something is flat is to create volume is you need to shade it more. You need some parts to be, you need to have a progression from, and you need to realize which direction the light is coming from. So the top has to be brighter. Now it's even looking a bit flat here because of the stains. So you can, in this case, you can remove some of the stains. I mean, you can minimize the stains. You can make this a little bit brighter up here. And actually, there's a more complex shape. There is a line going across here, which is, in this case, it may help to hide the flatness. If we recreate that line, we can make this area look more interesting. And making an area look more interesting is another way to escape from the curse of flatness. So, yeah, I think that's it for now. I mean, it shows you the principles from which I work anyway. This is a bit too dark still. I'm going to make a big, very gentle brush stroke here with a light color, just to minimize that, just to lighten that part a little bit, and maybe here as well. Sometimes it's hard to stop, but anyway, I'm going to stop now.